here. Let me tell you something.
Tell you something.
Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you.
Yeah! 1127. Dude. 1127. Dude. 1127. Dude. Yeah. Fire. Straight heat. Light speed. Photon heat.
Yeah, that was no bar. That was no bar.
When Toei dropped their A game,
Amazing.
One Piece ruled.
Yeah, boy.
And they dropped their A game. We knew from last week we were getting some major heat this week because of the trailer. And you know what's even crazier? The next episode, 1128.
Yeah, listen.
Duplicate the epicness that was this episode of One Piece. Come on. When you got some of the greats in the industry putting on a show on all fronts, from beginning when Luffy grabbed Kizaru, Tom and Jerry, and you know Oda's a big fan of Tom. That rat activity is not appreciated in the One Piece realm, and he eats him super far, all the way to the very end, where at the to be continued screen, the eyes of Saint Satan. Hey, you know what? I'm tired of sitting down, doing nothing, being lazy. It's time to get on up, cause we're moving on up to the east side. We moving on up, Saturn. What? Oh, God. The vast majority of One Piece fans absolutely appreciate how the animation has improved from the days of yore, the old era, to where we are now. Particularly a lot of the old heads. I think that we should absolutely appreciate how far One Piece anime has come. Back in my day, the best animation we ever got was Once in a Blue Moon, now Toshi Shida. He's still a go to this day. But on average, Dressrosa animation, that's what we got. That's what we had to live with. That was our peak. That was our magnus opus. So, like, how the times have changed. And listen, I gotta thank Demon Slayer because I really feel like Demon Slayer doing what they did change the ball game for so many different studios, particularly in this economy, where in this economy, attention's so important. Way better off to have your anime get so many eyeballs globally because of the hype and the peak and the quality animation and choreography and so on and so forth. Not the reverse, where it's dog water, it's really subpar at best. We're talking about average isekai quality. No, the T-bait fans, they know full well what that means. I did do my stream for the reaction for the episode, which, by the way, obviously, the streams are done for all my reactions on my Patreon first and foremost. Episodes and animes and so on and so on, and movies too. Uploaded to my Cole-san YouTube channel, edited with filters. My guess was that it was gonna be just as good as Law versus Blackbeard, which was an outstanding showcase between those two, for sure. It's better. This episode is better because not only is it Monkey D. Luffy, the main character, putting on showcase, but also set up since Shabonda Archipelago, when Luffy and company were so much weaker. When you just think about what happened during Shabondi, and then you think about what happened now, it's crazy. Luffy's greatness then versus now, through the moon. Now he's on that GOAT. That Michael Jordan GOAT status. At least he's getting there, right? He's not there yet, but you can see the trajectory. And what he did to Kizaru this episode, but like Kizaru, oh my God, man. It's like a 7-game series between these two. This was beautiful. So let me give credit to the individuals that took part in the creation of this fantastic, magnificent masterpiece. And also, shout outs to one of the animators that made a pretty big change from Wano Country, where they decided to expand their palette, where in the past they said they weren't going to. So the animation for this episode, we have to give credit to Ryu Ziwang, Liu Jiguang or Jigang, Masaaki Takayama, Jin Jaki, Suan Wang, Aki Hi Akihiro Ota, who continues to perform outstanding sequences and moments in the One Piece anime. Absolutely phenomenal moments that will be forever etched into our skulls for as long as we live, undeniably. And if you say otherwise, you're capping. Also undeniably. Huang Yang, Hiro Nagano, Ziwei He, Vincent Chansard, Vincent Chansard, who, man, has stolen the hearts of so many One Piece fans ever since his insanity, his absolutely breathtaking what the F moments in Wano Country, because his work, I think, has reshaped so much what folks thought was possible that you could do in scenes or sequences for animation. One Piece has shaped so much of our lives, it's undeniable. I know it's a side tangent here, but it's gonna be a crazy moment when it's all said and done. It won't happen immediately, but as like the months draw, and you're like, damn, One Piece is over. What the? Almost like a gaping hole, like a Bote's void in the universe. Like, yo, whoa, yo, where's my One Piece fix? So hopefully, fingers crossed, Two Piece and the One Piece. We'll have to see if things go in the future for that. The last person I want to give credit to, obviously, is Tu Young-se. And Tu Young-se, I want to give particular credit to. Vincent is going to acquire another video entirely because he has this whole mock-up that kind of explains his thought process as how he did what he did for the majority of the Luffy versus Kizaru fight inside that cloud in this episode. Crazy stuff. And he did, maybe not a mock-up, but he did a similar string of posts on Twitter, on X, after he had done the S-Hawk versus Zoro and Luffy sequence way back when. And that went mega viral. So there's a lot of thought that I do want to break down in a dedicated video to that, because I think that does require a lot of attention. Tu Young-se, for me, gets a lot of credit here because Tu Young-se, if you don't know, Tu Young-se is the guy that did the finale of the Film Red movie where Shanks and Luffy, the first animated Gear 5 ever was done by Tu Young-se in the Film Red movie. The combo move on Top Musica, that was animated by Tu Young-se. And Tu Young-se is also the magician that created some of these fantastic sequences in episode 1061 of One Piece, aka Sanji Piece. But now we have Tu Young-se doing some work for Zoro and Rob Lucci, aka Rob Bababucci, aka Rob Enrico Pucci, aka, I can go on, but I digress. Rob Goat Lucci versus Roronoa Zoro is work done by Tu Young-se. This is what I really like to see. Extra added content in the episodes that drags it out without the need for a filler arc in the future. There are so many opportunities with this Zoro versus Rob Lucci fight that is completely MIA in the manga for an extended amount of time, for like half a year or more, I think, something like that. Well, they could absolutely take advantage of that. Toei should, for sure, and add a lot of different fight scenes, clashes, technique between Zoro and Lucci, absolutely. And Tu Young-se himself said before that he wasn't really a big fan of doing sequences, animation scenes involving Zoro. Every person has their go-to, their fave, whether it be characters or animation style. Henry Thurlow, when he was doing work for One Piece, which in the future, I think he'll come back again. Henry Thurlow explained that he likes to spin. You can see in his animation style, like for example, when Green Bull reforms after the blast breath that Momonosuke gives him, Green Bull is spinning. Or let's say the Macer Cannon on Ulti, a lot of spinning. That is one of the MOs of Henry Thurlow. He likes to have characters spin around, do the whirly twirls, like their Beyblades, like it's Sonic the Hedgehog, that kind of stuff. Vincent Chansard himself, he's a Kaido fanboy. He's a Kaido simp. He's a Kaido simp. He loves Kaido. When Vincent Chansard could, he absolutely, positively gave Kaido oodles of glaze. It was gnarly how much glaze he gave Kaido. So the reasons why Tu Young-se wasn't necessarily too keen on doing Zoro content, I'm not too sure. Shouts to Swagger for letting me know about that too. But nonetheless, his power has expanded and he is doing Zoro content with Rob Lucci in this episode, and it's really good content. Also, great scenes too. Obviously, you have the scene where Luffy just yeets Kizaru across the world, and then you knew off the gate this was gonna be an amazing fire spectacle, at least an 8 out of 10 minimum. And it did not disappoint from there moving on. It did not. And honestly, I ain't gonna lie to you too. I did love the scene of Usopp and Chopper just, oh my God, and crying, and the mucus. These were just fantastic moments. The low-key scene of Sanji getting amped up, ready to go and help out Bonnie. And then also, scenes I did like too were Bonnie herself and the choreography that she displayed when she was fighting against the fodder, and she was aging up or down while she was also dodging their attacks, their bullets, and so on by aging herself in various ways, and also showing you her hands. In a world, there are so many different options to be successful, whether it be different powers or base strength, technology, you have nigh gods and all these crazy individuals. A lot of times seeing some smooth hand-to-hand combat, it can go a really long way. And for Bonnie's scene, I think that's the case, absolutely. And it's crazy when you think about sometimes where One Piece has been doing really, really well in terms of animation as of late for the past few years. But there are people that have now been complaining about over animation, whether it be JJK, One Piece, Soul Leveling, and so on and so forth. And then some people bring up the idea of, well, all you really need is like smooth hand-to-hand combat animation for fights, even though you have a whole pantheon, a whole plethora of abilities to tap into. No. All you need is smooth hand-to-hand fights, and that's like the pinnacle of combat animation. Another video, another day later this week, for sure. But this recent online topic of over animation, I think is ridiculous on so many fronts. But shout outs for Liu for that whole thing, because Liu did he did a great job there. I absolutely did. Fantastic work. The talk of the town, obviously. Vincent Chansard's work for Kizaru vs. Luffy was honestly a phenomenal piece. Arguably one of his top 3 work he's ever done for the One Piece series. This was incredible. One of the things that I really like to see was how he utilized the light and the rainbow effects. When Kizaru is flying through the air, before he hits the water, you do have a sort of rainbow ring as he's passing through a cloud. And that is, I think, Chansard doing some research on trying to figure out how light works, how it reflects on certain things like clouds and waters, and what sort of effects would be a result of that. Because when light hits a cloud in a certain way, after, let's say, a rain shower, you do get those sort of like rainbow rings. So I think Chansard is really diving into a lot of details, research on how to make a lot of these effects not only consistent, but they make sense in a real world sense, and they're really executed in real time during these fights. Yasakai no Magatama, bing, and then he just flies over. RGB effects that you would see when you do, let's say in science class, when you have light go off of a prism, will then have the rainbow colors. You have that happening with Kizaru. Then you have the reflection of the Kizarus on Luffy's eyes and some of those stills, really focusing on the idea that we're able to see what we see around us because we're able to see the objects around us by light reflecting off of those objects and our eyes absorbing those images from that light reflection. So it's almost as if like Luffy in some ways eye is in a sense absorbing Kizaru's images, and that's why you see those Kizarus within his eye. Like there's attention to detail that Vincent does here that is just off the charts. And then obviously the impact frames, and then the shots of the tomfoolery and going in the cloud and breakdancing and sleeping on one of the holograms of Kizaru. Like, yo, what the fuck? Hell, bam, baby. Vincent Chansard baby shaking, full on throttling so many One Piece minds with this fantastic animation, and you love to see it. And I do appreciate Luffy's and Kizaru's fight happening in the cloud too, calling back, I think, to the inverse cloud shenanigans that we saw with Luffy in episode 1074, which is another episode that Vincent Chansard also worked on. All in all, the episode was just outstanding, whether it be the minor details, like when Luffy throws Kizaru so far that his hand kind of seems to almost burn a little bit because he was revving his arm that much, or let's say the details of the light on Luffy's eyeballs for Kizaru, or the spectrum shifting because Kizaru is showing you the different spectrums of light and how light is viewed, or whether it be the greater fight sequences between Luffy and Kizaru, or Zoro and Rob Lucci, even stuff with Bonnie and the fodder. This episode, in terms of animation, in terms of pace, and in terms of story relevance too, in various fronts, because now you have Jay Garcia set on the move after Atlas and company forced the Pacifista to re-engage in combat with the Marines. The episode I would say is like a firm 9 out of 10. The fanboy in me is like 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. But a 10 out of 10, I always have to remember, is an episode that's on the same tier as episode 1015, which I think is the best episode of One Piece. And the only other modern day episode I have on that tier is episode 1112. So this episode I would say is just as good as either Sanji piece or Zoro piece, which are both 9 out of 10s in my book. That last scene of this Luffy, man, Luffy just biting down on that beam. Oh, yeah. The effects of the beam coming out of his eyes, him trying to hold it back, him kind of going like a sun god, but he's tweaking heavily. The ideas, I can see them as clear as day. Even though my vision is dog water, and I can barely see it with my glasses, I can see the vision that a lot of these animators had in mind as clear as day. The only thing I'll say about this episode that I thought was a bit off was, though I'm not surprised because I am used to it by now, it's the sound effects.
Oi.
I thought the sound effects could have been better, honestly, at times, like really better. Because I'm so used to it, it doesn't impact me as many other folks, because I remember when it was actually very, very damn good sound effects when it was in the mid 2000s or late 2010. Now we're in 2025. It feels like there are so many better options for sound effects. As crazy as it seems when I think about it now, One Piece can get better. Definitely the sound effects can be a key avenue of improvement for the future of the series. Absolutely. We are not at full power with One Piece. Episode was fantastic. It was absolutely, positively, without a doubt, fantastic. Like Reed's ult to Marvel Rivals, fantastic. And I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side. Of course, make sure to take it easy, stay safe, have a nice one. And if you don't know, I do my reactions to these episodes first done on my Patreon. So I'm gonna see you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye bye.